welcome everyone to this week's Menlo Midweek podcast. My name is Mark. We've got Jevon with us today.
Yeah, that's what's up.
And clearly you can tell by my voice that I'm getting over a little something, so I apologize if it's all froggy and scratchy.
I thought it was just like you jumped into a smoke cloud or something. You were barbecuing too much, and that's what happened.
I wish, man.
Yeah. What's your favorite type of barbecue?
You know, over here, like Junior makes a good brisket.
Oh,
Junior
man.
Stuff, yeah.
You know, I know Junior can make a good brisket, but mine's better.
I'm sure yours is.
I've never tasted his. I'm just prideful when it comes to my barbecue.
Yeah. When I was living in Japan, there are these spots called yakiniku spots or yakitori, where they have like the little grills right in front of you, and those would always be super smoky. But man, it'd be so fun to go in there and just get like all the little skewers of things.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude.
See, people who can't cook should not even cook their own food at places that allow them to cook.
You
shouldn't be cooking stuff if you don't know how to cook.
For sure.
You don't set somebody on fire.
Ooh. Yeah. I know we've had such great weather the last couple of weeks. It's been it's like barbecue season. Now it's gonna get all rainy again, I think, and so I'm kind of bummed that we get that little bit of winter.
I know, man. Someone told me I've adapted too much to the climate, because in Seattle it didn't matter if it was raining. I was out there on that grill, but now here. Man, I'm not doing that grilling.
I gotta put a jacket on.
I gotta put a jacket on and an ascot.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, shout out to the Seattle Seahawks.
I was gonna say, yeah.
You know, we had to do it.
Oh man, that had to be so fun.
Yeah, man. It was. I wish I could have went to the game, but you know,
I'm surprised you didn't.
Me too. I mean, you know, there's this deep loss that Seahawks fans have in their heart since the Super Bowl, where we threw it instead of running it.
I remember that one.
Yeah, everybody remembers that one. And I told my wife that I thought that we needed this Super Bowl win so it could take away all that pain.
Yeah.
It didn't work though. I'm still happy, but I still want that one back.
Yeah. Did any of your friends come down or fly in for the game?
Yeah, I had a couple people who were out there for the game, and then it would have been really, really cool to go. But I did get to go to a breakfast. Okay, there's only like 2 sanctioned events by the NFL for Super Bowl weekend, so I went to one of those 2, and it was a breakfast for a Bart Star Award. Okay, and so Christian McCaffrey was the person who got that award, and so I got to sit in the room and see Christian McCaffrey get his award, and video messages from Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, and then it was really cool because randomly I was coming out of the bathroom and someone said congratulations, and I was like, congratulations for what? And I turned around and they're actually talking to Christian McCaffrey, who's washing his hands right next to me in the bathroom. And I was just like, oh snap, it's Christian McCaffrey. And I was like, hey dude, thanks for all you do. Super cool guy. It was great to hear his heart for Jesus, and how Jesus has sustained him through his times of injuries. Wow. In his learnings, and so it was just super sweet. It was really cool because a lot of those people who were in the room were people of faith, and there were some people who were not. So it was an opportunity for people to share their faith, and there's so many great stories. Condoleezza Rice was there, a lot of different Hall of Famers. It was just super, super great, and it was a great testimony, I think, to Jesus in the Bay Area and some of the other organizations. TBC, Transforming the Bay with Christ, was there, and speaking glue, like Pat Gelsinger. So
everybody was there.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Nice. So to be in that room was like, why am I here? How'd this happen? I was waiting for somebody to kick me out. Like, sir, you're not supposed to be here. I'm like, I know.
But
I don't know how I
lasted long enough. It was still worth it.
I have no idea, but it was super cool to be part of that.
Wow. Man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
and
it was.
What a way to jumpstart your weekend into preaching, which is always fun.
Yes, it is always fun. I love preaching the Bible, man.
We're in week 2 of our Love Is series, and something that I really love and appreciate about you, Jevon, is the thoughtfulness that you put in, the way that you're navigating some of the culture piece of being in the Bay Area and trying to follow Christ. And with a message such as this, it's really timely for a lot of people. Yeah. For those that might have missed it, we're in week 2 of our Love Is series. Love is worth waiting for. So let's give you a little recap and we'll jump in.
Yeah, I think it's, as we're talking about the kind of of the culture's definition of what they think love is, and also what the scripture says about what love is. What does it mean, especially in the month of February, right? I mean, it's some people are like, I hate this month because it's all capitalism. Well, yeah, it is. It's all about love stuff, but sometimes the culture's definition of love is different from the biblical definition of love, or sometimes the definition that we think based on our lives or what we've been taught is contrary to the biblical definition of love. And so when you have some of these conversations when it comes to intimacy, relationships, friendships, when your enemy says something, does something to you, or posts something that you don't like how do you love that person in the midst of that? And I think we're easy to replace God's definition of love for what we think is love.
Yeah. I'm curious, Jevon, growing up, how did you experience love, and what was love like that was taught to you, and how similar or different was that from the love that you preached on this past weekend?
Oh, man. Dude, I don't pay you to be my therapist, so I can't.
That's true. Yeah.
And you wouldn't want to be. You don't want to be in here. You'd be like, oh my gosh, let me out. I mean, for me, growing up, love was definitely like those feelings, like, like when people say, I caught feelings for somebody. I can remember the elementary school stuff of, seeing this girl and being like, oh, she's cute. I like this girl. And that was my definition of love. And then it was also like with family stuff, it was like tough, very tough, tough love. Yeah. And I had the kind of unique, experience that a lot of, people have, especially in this country too. Is like, it's not just a parent parenting you. My mom was a single parent who parented me. I was the oldest of three. I was the only boy, but I'm also black. I'm black, living in a cultural context that has a history of that. So my mom was, very loving and very kind, but she was also very like direct and firm with me on teaching me certain things like, hey, like you have to navigate yourself in such a way that is above a standard that may not be for everybody else. And so for me, her love was very, very strong, very direct, and very intentional. At an early age. But I mean, my mom did the best that she could. I'm super thankful for my mom. But I think that was the challenge too, and how even I can think of sometimes as love is trying to be direct as possible, cut the time of explanations down from, hey, let's just walk around the tree, and around the bush, and said, no, let's just hit straight to the point. If you don't do this, here are some negative things that can happen and have happened, or if you are doing this, here's the way it can go. So, that kind of way has really kind of impacted me. So as I have daughters and as I have friends, or if I have coworkers, it's really for me how it can be interpreted at times is the directness, the firmness is like, oh, where it's just catching me off guard. But it's really like, hey, like I genuinely care and I'm trying to speak directly to because of the whole context, which I think it's been a growth edge for me to say is like, how does a specific person or even like my kids, how do I show them that love, especially I have two little girls, and so how do I instill strength and courage and in them, but at the same time be direct and be firm in a standard, and in their instruction of the way of the Lord, and that the Lord has instruction. And he frames it as such that these are my words, these are my commandments, which I like. It's better yet translated as words or instructions. But I think it's important to have that to have that standard. But how do you do that, right? And how do you grow in love and in patience and kindness, and how do you share that with others?
And so much of what we think about when we think about love today is circumstantial. It's what culture says love is. It's love is being kind by not being direct. Like that's probably one narrative that we've heard. And so as you're trying to guide people towards a, biblically, like I don't want to say accurate, but just like a biblically principled version of love, maybe for those that might have missed your message, what passage were we in, and what did we draw out of there as this is an example of how to love well?
Yeah, we took some verses from Jeremiah, about your heart, and that the heart is deceitfully wicked.
Yeah.
We went to Proverbs 4:23 about guarding your heart, about the importance of guarding your heart, and then we covered Ruth chapters 1 all the way through 4. The whole story of Ruth and Naomi and Boaz.
Yeah.
And just what does it look like that to acknowledge that love is worth waiting for, because we're in a place and space to where we oftentimes in our own lives, we've been either asking God for something or we're frustrated, not even necessarily directly with God, but frustrated with certain pieces of our life because certain things that we want, we're trying to get and it's just not happening.
Right.
And what we're often prone to do, all of us, is to go our own way. And the scriptures are very clear that that's called sin. When we go our own way versus going God's way. And it's easier to go our own way because it's harder to trust God with his way because we're not in control. And we are under an illusion that even if we could control it, we could control it better than God.
Yeah.
And God, as a loving father, wants to help give us some instruction on that. So when we're talking about in this culture about romantic relationships, that when you're waiting for a while, you're like, hey, what's up? I'm not, why are you not showing up? Or it's, hey, I have my own definition of sex or intimacy or, what consent means or these different types of things. And so you're trying to help people understand, like, wherever they're at on that spectrum of engaging in those things and trying to figure out what that significant other is. Also tapping into the same thing too about if you're married, you still have to understand that love is worth waiting for. What does it look like for you to be faithful in your covenant of marriage when things are rocky in your marriage and things are difficult? Do you say, okay, God, I've been so patient about this person being changed. I'm going to take it into my own ways and I'm going to change them because you won't do it. Or I'm going to go get with this person because they are the person that I feel like I like, or they show interest in me. Therefore, I'm going to choose my own way. Or if there's a person who's like, I'm single and I don't want to be in a relationship, which is totally fine. Like the goal of a person's life is not to get married. Like that doesn't mean that they have more value if they're married. Like, I mean, Jesus wasn't married. And that doesn't mean he's less valuable. But if a person's like saying like, hey, I don't feel called to be married and I don't want to be married, that's fine. But it's the same thing like everybody else says, like what God would say to all of us. In your relationship, have you chosen that because of your own preference, because of your own comfort, or have you chosen that because this is where I'm leading you to? And all of us have to examine that, whether in our relationships, romantically, our marriage, our singleness, and even if we've been divorced or we've lost a spouse in marriage. And so I think the gospel, again, like Tim Keller says, it flattens everybody. So nobody is on the moral high ground, upper or lower.
There's so much in there for just about every kind of person. And I love that we kind of covered all those bases. Something that I found really interesting in your message was this idea of a kinsman redeemer. That's not something that I would have guessed you would have talked about when I'm like, we're doing a series on love. For someone that's like, let's kind of double click on that. Let's unpack kinsman redeemer and this idea. How did it come about? Why did it fit so well? And what are you hoping that people take away from it?
Yeah, I mean, the scriptures all testify about Jesus. Like every story in the Bible talks about God. Even in the book of Esther, where even God is not mentioned in the book of Esther, but it's all about God and God's handiwork is all the way in it. This whole kind of conversation, or topic about a kinsman redeemer, of a person who's closely related, can see particular types of famine, or not famine, but a situation where, the spouse has lost their husband, they're socially unable to pay for things, and their lineage and their line is just gonna be erased. And it's part of the cultural aspect to say, hey, here's what it looks like to help provide security to, again, the legacy, which I think is super important. And that's why with the kinsman redeemer, the legacy of the kinsman redeemer, not only their ability to be a kinsman or be related or affiliated with the family, also their ability to actually purchase back or to redeem, which is, again, it's whole biblical imagery of that, of being able to purchase back, and then the willingness to do it. So as we saw, in Ruth 4:6, that the one who was closest enough as a kinsman redeemer to actually redeem that for Ruth was like, nah, fam, it's going to cost me too much money to do that. Now, that might have been like legitimately true, and it's like, hey, I can't do that. Or he's like, nah, I don't want to do it.
Yep.
Regardless of the case, what it really paints the picture of is that Jesus, as God, becomes God in the flesh, relation between humanity. Then he also has the capital as sinless, spotless, to even with the woman who had a continuing issue with blood, was able to touch him and him not to be dirty or unclean.
Right.
Because in Jewish tradition, you weren't allowed to touch a dead body, and you also weren't allowed to come in contact with blood in that sense, because you would be considered unclean.
Yep.
But it's so crazy that Jesus is so holy that even the things that are of corruption cannot corrupt him. And so that's where, when you have this piece of Jesus becoming flesh, he has all of the holiness to make someone right before him, and he has the willingness. Not just I have to do this, but I want to do this.
Right.
And that whole parallel is the whole gospel, the whole narrative from Genesis all the way to Revelation. And so I think it's really important for people to understand that, this came at great expense for Boaz.
Yep.
It came at great cost to Boaz. And he was doing it seeing the character. I think this is what it's crazy. He does it seeing the character of Ruth. But imagine God looks at us, the character of us, from what the scriptures say, born into sin. Now, again, you can't start at Genesis 3. You have to start at Genesis 1. Genesis 1, God creates all of us perfect. But then Genesis 3 happens. But our default mode is born into sin, an enemy of God, a child of wrath, as the book of Romans says. And so if you're born into that, when someone who has the capital to actually help free you, they look at you and be like, nah, I'm good. Based on your character, based on your choices, based on your actions, there's nothing good in me that would make you want to do that. But yet the fact that God, being so loving, not based on our position and what we are and what we've done, says, I'm going to love you in spite of that. And I know that you will be imperfect in your covenant with me to actually fulfill that.
Yep.
And there's a beautiful picture of that in Genesis. So God has promised Abraham that he's going to be the father of many nations. So his name is Abram, then becomes Abraham. And he has this thing to where blood is actually part of the covenant, which is part of the reason why blood is such an important narrative and theme throughout the scripture. So when the nation of Israel would sin, they would confess blood, confess their sin, and there would be blood that was spilled. So even on the Ark of the Covenant, on the mercy seat, all of these different things of this blood imagery of shedding of blood, meaning that there need to be a penalty paid, but then also sin removed from people. So the beauty is that in this account where Abram has this experience with God, where God has made this promise to him, Abram falls asleep. And it says that God, as a pillar of fire, walks in between a split carcass of an animal. And when Abram was the one who walked through those, he actually was saying, like, when someone says, like, on my mama, like, I bet that on my mama, like, Abram's like, I bet that on myself that I will keep my covenant that I promised to you.
Yeah.
But God knows you're not going to be able to really keep your covenant. So God actually makes the covenant upon himself because he's that holy, he's that other, and says, I have the capital. I have the holiness to actually fulfill this promise. So he walks through it. So it's not on every person to be able to fulfill that. They are called to, but they know that they can't. So what we have to do is to access the blood of God to say, God, your forgiveness covers my sin. Your covenant. And you see the same picture on the cross. Jesus is the person who on the cross is destroyed. And this says that the veil splits in two. Again, separating the dividing wall of hostility between Jew and Gentile and joins them to be one. God shows you this whole picture of how he is one going all the way through the biblical scripture.
Wow.
So that's what makes the kinsman redeemer so important, that it all hinges upon him and the character of God.
Wow. it's cool to see how that's woven from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And in many people's stories now, like dating is typically the start, marriage or family is the finish.
Yeah.
And to put that in through the lens of discipleship versus what culture says dating is now, which
Yeah.
is try it on,
Yeah.
see if it fits. If it doesn't,
Yeah.
put it back, try something else.
Yeah.
And so, as we're trying to help maybe younger people that are listening to this who are dating,
Yeah.
maybe families that are experiencing their kids dating,
Yeah.
how can we help instill and double click on what it means to see dating as discipleship? Because
Yeah.
that's just such a refreshing way to view it
Yeah.
that I don't think I would have put it in those words before this message, but now I'm probably going to think about that forever.
Yeah, man. I think too, like when you think about the biblical account of discipleship, especially during that day, a lot of Jewish rabbis, like they could choose.
Yeah.
They would choose who would follow them,
Yep.
and the person would have to make a case by which
Right.
they should be accepted by
Right,
this
right.
particular rabbi. And everybody had a different rabbi and different instructions, and so that's why Paul's like, oh, like people are like, oh, I'm of Paul, and he's like, no, 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 no. You're like, it's not about like who's your cosign or your hood pass, right? But I think it's one of those things to where it's like it's a genuine agreement of a relationship that says we would like to pursue what this could look like.
Yep.
And discipleship is a partnership that says I am not looking out for my best interests, but I'm also preferring you and looking at it for your interests.
Yep.
And oftentimes what happens is that we start to look at it as what can this person do for me? How can they complete me? How can they make my life whole? How can they fill the void? And if we're not careful, we will outsource our discipleship to a person that we're in a relationship
great.
with versus the person
great.
who paid and died for us to be in relationship with him.
Yeah.
And so it's that piece of saying like, God, where are you calling me to do? Again, not to try it out. Because I often too think that when we say, like, even when we're talking about the subject of intimacy and sex, in the context of a dating relationship, it's like, hey, when we say, like, I want to see if we're compatible, what you're really saying is that if it's what I like, because anatomically everybody's compatible from how God made you and designed you. But when we start to say, like, I want to make sure I can try certain things or something to be my preference, like, God's like, those things are not for you to be in before you're in a covenant marriage relationship. And I think our culture says you need to try out everything to make sure it's everything that you want versus, hey, when you have decided who you want in your relationship, the piece is for you to start working on that and working that out in your relationship versus doing it on the front end. And like all the statistics point way more towards, like, if you are in a healthy covenant marriage practicing sexual intimacy, that your marriage is more likely to succeed and to be more enjoyable. The opposite end, you have way more problems. Now, that's not to say that God can't redeem that, because we all know none of us have come into a perfect situation. We all have had past, and God can forgive and redeem all those things. And so if there's even a person who's listening today is like, yeah, but that's not my life, like I've already blown it or messed up, the blood of Jesus covers that. Like we said, the kinsman redeemer, he's got the capital to forgive and say, still be with me. But then he says, hey, now that you're understanding that and acknowledging that, here's a better way and a new way to live. And I think that where's where we're going to need the Holy Spirit to give us strength and power and give us community to say, hey, look, I'm struggling with these and these things in these different areas. Like, it's just easier for me to cohabitate. It's just easier for me to continue in this relationship. So, like, can you help me and give me some instruction on how to navigate this this conversation in this point in space of life?
That's great, man. And I feel like that preference of me first, or I have this idea of what I think love is or what I want love to be, that goes before all of the different kinds of love.
Yeah.
As a parent, I feel that with Micah, because I'll be on the internet and be like, oh, I must not be a good enough parent or love Micah enough because I'm not doing these things or feeding him these foods or taking him to Disneyland or whatever else. You know what I mean? And so it's it's interesting when we try to reframe that as, well, one, who am I becoming? How is that intersecting with my wife? How is that intersecting with our child? And I think you said something along the lines of, in terms of compatibility for intimacy, like, if you are taking care of your discipleship and you're taking care of your relationship with your wife or your husband, and if those things are good, then you will be compatible.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we forget. And again, that's why it's not really about being compatible. It's basing if it's on my preference. And so I think if we can just call that out
Yep.
instead of like, putting it in a guise of something different. We know what compatibility is. We've had the talk. We know how this all works. We can read the scripture and know that the scriptures don't even shy away from it.
Right.
So it's not that
Yep.
are we compatible or not? It's, physically you are, because that's how God made you anatomically, but then and physiologically, but then like how do you cultivate the genuine, emotional connection? That's really important.
Yeah, and I feel like I love how you ended your message as well because you kind of broke it down to a few different kinds of people groups that you're talking to: single, never married, married, divorced, widowed, and there was really a takeaway for everyone.
Yeah, that was hard, bro.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah, that was hard to
The way that
weave
you.
in all those different things. But
Yep. But I mean, if you missed that, go back and listen because there's something in there. But I think at the heart of all of that, it was like essentially saying like God is trying to work legacy through you, and the way that that happens is if you love yourself well, and if you love someone else well. If God gives you the gift of loving someone else.
yeah, and it's to guard your heart. If you're single, guard your heart. If you're married, guard your heart. If you're divorced, guard your heart. If you're a widower, guard your heart. Like everybody has to guard their heart from external forces and internal forces. Like the book of James says, let no man say that he is tempted by God, but that every person is given away to their own temptations, desires, and lusts.
Yep.
It's easy to blame it on the devil. It's easy to blame it on God. It's a lot harder to put it on us and say, where are we choosing differently?
Yep.
And how are we choosing our own way? And I actually, after the service, the final service, was just saying hi, and there was a long line for prayer. Like so many people were wanting prayer, which was such a beautiful
great.
thing to see. So I was praying with people, and then there was a group of people, I call them cast iron saints. They're like, what, you don't call us old? I'm like, no, you cast iron. Like, a lot of life has been lived in the dish of your
seasoned.
life. Seasoned, bro.
Yeah.
Straight seasoned, like Lowry's. And so, I was just like, hey, do you mind if I join you? And they're like, yeah, we're just talking about your sermon. And two of them were two males that they were had lost their wives, and another gal, and I didn't know the situation from her life, but we had a good chance to even just talk about it, and they loved, and they were expressing that feedback of like how there was something for everybody, and how sometimes they didn't feel like on a conversation like this that they'd be seen.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difficulty of a 30-minute message on a diverse group
something as big
across
as what is
4
love?
campus. Yeah, I mean, is that such an existential question, right? Shout out to Hadaway.
Yeah, I know. That's
Baby,
funny.
don't hurt me no more. But I think that's very difficult. And so I was really thankful for feedback I got from team helping me out on navigating that conversation. But yeah, I think there's something for everybody to take, because, the enemy wants to destroy you. He wants to destroy your relationships and everything. So how can you trust God and grow in the context of community and not allow that to happen?
Great. For someone that's like, hey, I want to guard my heart this week, what could that look like?
Yeah, I think I would make a delineation too with guarding your heart. Sometimes people think guarding your heart means not letting anybody in.
Good.
And I think guarding your heart doesn't mean like, like this the scripture, that the gates of hell won't prevail against it, right? I hate it when people take this scripture and they put it in this weird space where because gates are not meant to keep people like necessarily in. It's meant to keep enemies out. So gates as a offensive weapon, that's a different conversation, right? So I think when we're having the conversation of guarding your heart, it's making sure that you're acknowledging what's internal and then what's external.
That's good.
So how do you let in
Yeah.
who needs to be let in, and then how do you guard yourself around what needs to not be getting out?
Yeah.
And the invitation for not myself to be going out, but for God and his spirit to be coming in. So to guard my guard my heart. I think that's going to be a huge key. It's just, and guarding your heart is going to mean to be honest. Like if you know you're in that relationship because you're really attracted to someone physically, like you got to guard your heart and know that that's true.
Yeah.
If you really do care about them, boundaries and setting those parameters is love for you to do that.
Yep.
And so guarding your heart, meaning acknowledging what's the reality. What do you really know you like? What do you really have temptation to? What are you prone to?
Yep.
What do you enjoy? What are the good things? And so how do you guard yourself against things that could be taking advantage of those things? And then guarding your heart to say, am I actually being so introspective and being selfish?
Yep.
Like that's asking yourself those questions. That's also guarding your heart because you're not becoming myopic, or what C.S. Lewis would call it in the Space trilogy, that these were creatures who were bent inward.
Yeah.
They're inward bent, so they're focused on self. So when you're guarding your heart, how can you acknowledge if you're doing certain things to be selfish?
Yeah.
And so again, the gospel flattens everything, but guarding your heart doesn't mean not opening up, doesn't mean not being in a relationship. It means being honest to say, I shouldn't be in a relationship right now, or I should be in a relationship now, or I need to navigate this relationship differently because we've already crossed some lines and we need to recalibrate that because I do care about it enough. So that's what I would say. And again, having people be accountable, because it's discipleship, right? So discipleship happens in the context of community, like Paul says to Timothy. Not only did I, or it says in Thessalonians, I believe, it's not only did I impart, or Titus, not only did I impart, the gospel, but I imparted my life.
Right.
Like I gave you everything. In a car, you have a rear view mirror and two side view mirrors. If you've ever experienced a side view mirror getting knocked off, it sucks. Imagine if you were driving a car with no side view mirrors. Now, Tesla's fixed this problem, but if you're driving a car and you have no side view mirrors, you can't see to the left or to the right. That's community. You need the side view mirrors to tell you what's on the left and what's on the right and what's around you to make sure that you're not in danger from veering into those lanes. So in discipleship, in dating as discipleship and guarding your heart, you also need to have other people around you that know you, that love you, that hold you accountable, who know your struggles, who can be trusted with your heart and with your most detailed information. And if you don't have that, find that, get that, cultivate that. But you're going to need side view mirrors to say, hey, just so you know, that object in the mirror is closer than it appears.
Yeah, that's great, man. If you want to leave anything else out there about this message, I know that you've probably cut a lot of things from your message that you wanted to include, or if you want to just say, hey, this is really what I want people to take away from this. You might have already said it, but
yeah, I really think, hey, if you've crossed the line, if you feel like you're like just not killing it and crushing it at this, it's okay.
Yeah.
God has grace and God has forgiveness. The standard is not, God is the standard. And none of us are on his standard.
We're not on a curve.
Yes. And God doesn't grade on a curve, right? He only grades on perfection. And at that sense, we all are not, on that level, but his grace makes us on that level.
Yeah.
And so my just encouragement to people is, if you have crossed that line physically or emotionally, and you shouldn't be in that relationship, or you want to be in that relationship, but you want to make some moves from how you've been operating, then do that. Get some people around you, do that, and just know that God is a God of grace. God is also at the same time a God of a standard. And so his invitation is always there. It's a better way to live.
Yes.
Now it's more difficult
For sure.
because narrow is the gate, but broad is the way to destruction. And so it's harder to take the narrow path. And so I would just say, like, there's tons of love, there's tons of grace, and just guard your heart. Are you in a relationship because you're being selfish and you're trying to get something versus serving? Or are you in a relationship because you're prideful and you're bent inward and you don't want to give anything to anybody else? Or is God calling you in your new season of life, whether you're divorced or widowed, like how to engage that new season? Just know that God's love is for you. That if you're local in the area in Menlo, we'd love to be a support and resource for you, and that you're just deeply loved by God.
That's awesome, man. Well, Jevon, it's always fun having you on.
Yes, man.
It's yeah, I just love the attention that you bring, the energy that you bring, and your thoughtfulness. I mean, it's really like, it's not just hype teaching. There's substance there. There's a lot of thought there. And I just really appreciate how in this message that could have been so broad, like you really dialed it in for each person that was listening. So thanks, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And speaking of, I don't know, discipleship.
Yes. Speak on it.
Taking a road that is narrow.
Yes.
This is actually going to be my second to last podcast here at Menlo, which feels crazy to say.
I know.
Jevon and some of the other leadership team and the creative team here has been walking alongside me and trying to figure out what could be next for Mark and what that looks like. And God has opened up some doors for me to step into a role. Another church in our Bay Area church network here at PCC down in Redwood City to step into a leadership role there, helping with their comms and creative. And so it's crazy that this is kind of finally out there now, as it's something that we've been thinking about and praying for the last couple months or so, and we had no idea what it looks like. And honestly, it's scary.
Yes.
It's exciting, and I know that God is leading. Yes. But it is so scary at the same time.
Yes, man. Well, if I can, man, that church is going to be blessed because of you and your family.
Yes.
Your wife, your
Mostly
family.
my family.
Like, you're a plus one. No, man. And, I just want to say, man, on behalf of all of Menlo present, and I know there's people who've been here previous who aren't able to, but just say thank you, man. Like, you are a huge blessing to Menlo. It is so great to be able to see you grow in your leadership, grow in your love for Jesus, and grow in your discipleship. Again, to be at the place and space where you're willing to take that leap. And I'm just so proud of you.
Thanks, man.
And if no one's ever said, like, hey, Mark, I'm proud of you, I just want you to know I am very proud of you.
Thanks, Jevon.
You are a blessing. You are going to be a huge blessing to that church. You have grown in leadership, and Menlo is better because of you, and we're thankful for you. And I think you're going to do some great damage to the enemy for the kingdom's sake at this church. And we are Morinishi fans. We're the Morinishi family.
Thank you.
Family fans, and we love you. So we're here for you, and thank you so much for who you are, bro.
Thank you. Yeah, man. It's wild, and I'm not shy of saying, like, this is usually the highlight of my week where I get to come and sit down and talk to you or Phil or whoever else is in. And so it's been really fun.
Yes.
And I'm excited for what's next.
You should be.
I'm nervous and I'm sad. There's definitely some grief mixed in,
Yes, yes.
When God calls us to follow Him.
Yes.
It can be sweet, but at the same time, there can be some grief. And
yes.
I've got about 2 weeks left here on staff. And so I'm, trying to meet with as many people as I can and just savor these last couple of weeks. But yeah, man, I really appreciate it.
That's awesome, man. And just remember this, what Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, when Christ calls a man, he bids him to come and die.
Yes.
And in death, that's grief. But in death is where new life comes.
That's great. And
that's the beauty and the joy I think that you're talking about. And just know, man, like, nothing's ever dead because Jesus is alive. That's great. So keep it going, bro.
Thank you.
We got you. We're going to miss you on this podcast. What's this podcast going to be like without you?
I'll come back.
Bro, like Michael Jordan, how many times?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's so funny. Well, if you want to share any encouragement for Jevon, myself, or send in any prayer requests, we'd love for you to do so. 650-600-0402. Have a wonderful week, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Deuces.